reports of people falling victim to scams have been making headlines for years. More recently, investment scams have become increasingly common, with scammers targeting victims through social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and other messaging apps such as WhatsApp and Telegram. Some of these aspects of these scams are truly alarming. However, they also reveal distinct patterns and common tactics used by the scammers. In this episode, we are here at the Securities Commission Malaysia and honoured to have with us the General Manager of the Consumer and Investor Office, Mr. Jawahar Ali. He has kindly agreed to share insights into the most prevalent investment scams affecting our country based on the cases the Consumer and Investor Office has been receiving and managing. Mr. Jawahar, thank you for joining us and welcome to Coffee Talk.
Thank you for having me.
So it's no exaggeration to say that reports of people falling victim to scams have increased significantly. Among the various scams reported, investment scams are among the most common. According to news reports, victims either come across or approached by scammers on social media platforms or via messaging apps. These scammers often claim to provide investment education or training and sometimes even offering free sessions. Following that, they assign an agent or an assistant to communicate directly with the victims, guiding them through these transactions. It is usually only after several transactions that the victims begin to realize that something's amiss, right? But unfortunately, by the time that happens, it's often too late. So the question is, does this scenario reflect the typical modus operandi of investment scams reported to the SC? And are there any other common variations?
Yeah. Now, what would be typical or what is common across board is that when the scam is perpetrated online. That's common. See, most or if not all of the scams are carried out online through social media platforms and whatnot, what you have rightfully said. But what you have explained, the scenario which you have explained, is one of many types of modus operandi. Now, when scam began to emerge, when I say began to emerge, was like, it became prevalent when the pandemic was unfolding. I'm talking about back in 2019 and that's where we started to see that the numbers, exponentially increase. So back then we used to see this very typical plain vanilla type of scams. Right. You just put 300 ringgit, we promise you the return of 3,000 ringgit within a few hours and which they make ludicrous claims and people used to fall for it. But what we have seen over the years is that the modus operandi began to evolve. When I say evolve, the latest that we see is use of AI and deepfakes, as an example, you see. So, and what we will see is they even use, very elaborate schemes, such as dating apps. We have seen scams where the victim met the scammer through a dating app, and then it was actually not just a one-off thingy, but it's a very elaborate type of schemes. So I think what one need to remember is that the scammers have at their disposal various resources, and they are and they are evolving. They're trying to look at new ways for them to scam people. Right? So, one just have to be aware of anything that they come across online and not just trust and just transfer your money to any unknown bank account. So that is the thing that one needs to be particularly aware of. Yeah.
Understood. Now, before we go any further, and this is after all an FIMM show, we need to ask, has the SC received any reports relating to unit trust and or private retirement schemes like scams related to UTS and PRS?
Based on our data, not specifically on unit trust or PRS, but what we have seen is that scams that where the scammers impersonate impersonate what do you call a unit trust consultant, or the impersonate what do you call unit trust management company in order to lend credence to their illegal activity.
Right.
So that's what we have seen. But to suggest any scams that specifically on UTCs and we have not seen that. We have not seen that yet.
Now, news reports suggest that there have been a significant number of victims, on investment scams. Now, based on the SC's insights, could you share why is that so, or why is that the case? Is it due to lack of digital literacy, or trust in authority, or maybe other psychological factors?
Yeah. Okay. To respond to that, allow me to make a reference to a study that we've conducted in 2023 and 2024.
Right.
The study is on vulnerability of scams. We wanted to know how vulnerable our people are to the scams. So, from the study that we have done, 384 out of the 1,300 people that we have carried out the survey, or about 30% of the respondents, they appear to be vulnerable to scams. That means from the study that we have conducted, about 30% of the sampling that we have done could be vulnerable to scams. That means they could be susceptible. They could fall victim to scams. Now, from that 30%, what we found was that about 60% of them were male, and 34% were young adults from 31 to 40 years of age, and 44% belong to the B40 households, and 70% at least held a diploma, which is quite disturbing. So now what this translates to, or what this tells us, is that anyone and everyone can become a victim of scams. It does not discriminate. So one needs to be aware that, look, I've got, I'm highly educated. I don't think I can fall victim. The scams are only meant for those who are, no. So you actually need to understand that. And then our study also show that these people, they rely on their families and friends, or sometimes social media influencers, when they're making their investment decisions.
Right.
And that is, what we want is for the people to be financially literate, you understand the product, be more educated before you make an investment, rather than just relying on what your friends say, what your uncle said. You go to a Raya open house and you meet someone and they say that, this is good, this isn't good. Yeah. Don't do that. You have to have your own knowledge before you make your investment.
Got it. The right kind of knowledge, for sure.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Now, interestingly, many senior victims, or victims in general, come from professional backgrounds, right? Teachers, technicians, bankers, contractors, business owners, name it, engineers, or even company directors. And these people are typically considered to be financially savvy. Why do even supposedly well-educated individuals fall prey to these sort of scams, right? Based on the SC's findings, are there any explanations for these occurrences?
Well, what I can say is that, we're not any specific study done on that, but based on my observation, is that they would be swayed by emotional appeals. I think that, as I mentioned earlier, anyone and anyone can become a victim of scam, not necessarily, those that are from the B40 group or the less educated and whatnot. No, not necessarily. You see, we have heard the likes of lawyers, doctors, and professors, you name it. We had those people falling victim to scams, and we would not expect that. So, what one need to take back home is that the scammers, they employ these tactics, various tactics that is actually a psychological trick, to get you to fall victim to the scams. Some of the things could be the likes of fear of missing out, greed. You would think that, you think that offer is made exclusively to you. You think, this is exclusive to me. But in fact, the scammers are not, So it's always, it's extremely important that whatever investment opportunity that's given to you, you do a bit of it, because you do not know how they play out how they employ these emotional tricks and whatnot, you will be thinking that, hey, this is actually a very good opportunity for me to secure my financial future, or this is exclusively to me, and I don't think anyone else knows, because that's what they want you to believe. They say, hey, look, this is only for you, because we're not telling anyone else and whatnot, you see. So a simple way to make sense of it would be to say that if someone knows very well how to make money, or they can turn their investment into tenfold within a year and whatnot, they would not tell you how to do it. You know what I mean? They will keep the secret to themselves and make the money themselves. You see? So you have to remember that. You see? So that is where I think one needs to be mindful, not to fall victim to this kind of a thing. So the takeaway with that is that it does not matter who. It does not matter how well educated you are, how financially savvy you think you are. Be careful. Be careful.
Another notable trend is that, these scams are conducted entirely online. Whether it's through webinars, social media postings, or messaging app. And it's never in person. Now, common sense would suggest people wouldn't trust strangers, with their money. Yet the loss per victim reported often amounts to hundreds of thousands, if not more, right? And what makes people trust these faceless, entities with their money?
As I mentioned just now, they can be very sophisticated. I think that what one need to be aware of is that, again, I would like to make reference to the pandemic. I think during the pandemic, the use of social media became very prevalent. Everybody was embracing social media, and hence that belief that this is the world, this is the new world that we are living in, and this is how we should be conducting ourselves. And they tried to, they became trustful, which is not the case. It should be the opposite. It should be the opposite, that you have to be more critical, more, not trust things without finding out more, but whatnot. But as I mentioned, a lot of these scammers, what they do is that, they will employ a lot of tricks, because it's online. So what they will do is that they will create fake testimonials, they create fake forged documents, and at times they also appeal to the religious sentiments of the victims. They say, oh, this is Sharia compliant, and this and that whatnot. And why the scammers opt to do it online is to avoid detection. It's to avoid detection, because if you do it online, it's anonymous. You don't know who they are. You see, once the scam is completed, you would not know how to, who to look for and whatnot. Trace back is a bit difficult. So that's how they do it. But specifically to answer your questions, because the prevalence of social media has caused this to social media can be used for the good, and it can also be used for the bad. But I think that the scammers are taking advantage of the more common use of social media to take advantage of the victims.
Half the time it's also some of these convincing words that they use through their messaging and things like that.
Yeah, so they use jargons, and they use big words that you think that, I think these guys know what they are talking about.
Absolutely,
and as I've said, they've got resources at their disposal, where they do their research. I wouldn't be surprised if they hire professionals and whatnot, to make it look legitimate and whatnot. So when one reads it, they'll be like, hey, this makes sense. Actually, it does not. It actually does not. So one advice that I would like to give is that, one of the major red flags is that, so whenever investment opportunity is offered online to you, see, it's already a red flag. If you just see it randomly on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever, it's already a red flag. So you have to understand that in an actual environment, in a legitimate environment, how an investment, the process of investing, it involves various stages. You have to have an account with the stockbroking company or the investment company, and there will be KYCs done. You have to submit your documents. You see, they will verify who you are and whatnot, and then you will, and more often than not, you'll be required to go to. There are certain, online stockbroking companies available now, but more often than not, it would have to be prefaced by some processes, some know your clients, KYC and whatnot. So if randomly you go and see some investment opportunity online and you just transfer it, your the scammer doesn't even know who you are. They don't even know your name. So how is it that you can just transfer your money just like that and hoping to make an investment gain like that? So those are the things that one need to remember, because if you appreciate how it happens in the real life, how investment takes place in real life, then when you see how this kind of things are offered to you, you can immediately pick out that these are red flags.
Do you think there's this misconception where people think investing is complicating? The process of investing is complicating, and that's why, when they see some of these postings and messaging on social media, they think, you know what, this is an easier way for me to do it rather than, otherwise I have to go through all these 10 different steps and it gets all complicating and puts me off. Do you think that that's something?
Could be, but I think that in itself should tell you that it's a red flag, correct?
Yes,
so
that's right.
If it is so easy, then it's not supposed to be easy. Let's say, for example, if you need to travel, you need to make plans, you need to buy tickets, you need to buy this. And if someone just comes to you and say that, hey, here all you are, just come to the airport. So it's already a red flag. So these are things that one need to remember. You see, everything has its process.
Yeah. Now, for the hard truth. What is the likelihood of victims recovering their money, even when they have reported the scam to the SC or the police?
The simple answer is that it's extremely remote, or highly unlikely, or even close to impossible. Because I think that more often than not, what we see is that, or not, in most cases, what we see is that, that the victims will be required to bank in money into some random mule bank accounts. See, it's a random mule bank accounts. So what then happens is that money would be almost immediately transferred out or layered out, and that's the last that they will see of it. So in order for the authorities to trace those monies, it's going to be extremely difficult. And even enforcement can be a challenge, given the nature and how it is done and whatnot. There are instances where this has been done, but as I've said, the odds are extremely remote. That is why we would like to just keep on emphasizing on investor education, and we would want people to be aware of these red flags and not get themselves into it before they. So what we'll tell them is this: if you have any doubt to the public, just give us a call. We can advise. And there has been many instances where people's curiosity has helped them. Because some people say, this looks very legitimate, this looks very legitimate. I'm convinced, but hey, let me just check with the SC first. And then they give us a call and we'll tell them, don't, this is a scam. So this has happened before. So these are the things that we want people to be curious, people to exercise skepticism, so that, so that these things, because you have to just be resigned to the fact that there are so many scams out there, there's so many different types of modus operandi out there, and it's keep on evolving. So yes, even if you feel that I am absolutely convinced, you just have to be very skeptical and to say that, okay, the last port of call is that let me at least check with the SC to see whether these things in this. We have made available various resources. We have a portal on our website. It's called the Investment Checker. So you can just put a name into the portal, and it will tell you whether the particular person or entity is licensed or whether there are any adverse findings against that particular person. So what we do in SC is that we almost daily, we update our investor alert list. That means based on the information that we receive, and the minute that we find that to be a scam or unlawful or unauthorized by the SC and whatnot, we will immediately include it into our investor alert list. So the public can always refer to that. But even if you still feel that I just need to make that check, please call us. I mean, that's my advice. Please call us. We have our officers available to answer your call, and we can help you out to do this. So, because as per your question, it says really, once you have parted with your money, you will not see it back. The odds of it are, as I mentioned, is extremely remote to almost impossible.
Got it. So prevention is definitely better than cure.
Yeah.
Or in this case, there most likely be no cure at all, right? What are the essential steps that investors should take before committing to an investment?
As I mentioned, first I mentioned this is something that I would like to moving forward would like
Moving
to advise
forward,
the public, you know, because people seem to think that, oh, it's simple. I just say, hey, this is all I need to do. I saw this, I just need to transfer money into this account, and then I'll be getting returns of you know, so much money. You see. So as I mentioned just now, what are the things that people need to be aware? Again, at the risk of repeating myself, be very, very or extremely cautious of investment opportunities that you come across on social media platforms. Okay? So, you know, it's just, you know, just be careful of that. And number two is that never ever bank in money into what do you call an unknown bank account. You see what I mean? So, if assuming that a legitimate entity or a licensed entity by the SC, you know, say for example RHB, Maybank, or you know, or CIMB or whatever, you would need to bank in money into the stockbroking companies, our licensed companies' bank accounts. So, but if you are required to bank in money into some random unknown bank account, individual's bank account, Ahmad bin Abu or Tanakau or whatever, it is obviously a red flag. You see, why are you investing or rather transferring money into an individual or an unknown bank account for the purposes of investment? That just doesn't happen in the real, investing world. You see, in the investing environment, it doesn't work, you know. And of course, the third thing is that, you know, you must only invest through licensed licensed or what they call registered or authorized entities by the SC. And you can always check our portal, our website, to see whether they are legitimate or not. And in doing so, the public is also advised that, you know, that there are many clone firm scams out there, which means that they will what do you call claim themselves to be so and whatnot. They impersonate a legitimate entity. So people have to be mindful of that as well. So you just need to check on that, you know. And as I've said, you know, you should if in doubt, you know, you can always call the SC. You can call us at we have a hotline. 036204 8999. I repeat, 036204 8999. Or drop us an email at adwan@secom.com.my. So, and then our officers will get back to you.
Now, to wrap things up, could you share with our viewers on the key points to, you know, remember for identifying red flags and avoiding investment scams? Just to give a wide summary. I know we've kind of gone through it, you know, in detail, but yeah.
Well, as I mentioned just now, there are various things that one need to be mindful of. But I think that the most important thing right now, I would say, is to the exercise of skepticism. Exercise of skepticism. So because they have evolved, there are just too many out there, and they are too varied out there. But as I mentioned just now, I always say this: there are various red flags that you can identify. You know, and if there are, I call it overload of information, you say, oh, what do I need to remember? You know, what do I need to remember? If you can just remember a few things, few critical things, then you will be able to avoid yourself from feeling victim scams. Number one is returns. Okay, returns. If someone were to come to you and say that you put in 300 ringgit and you will get back 3,000 ringgit within a couple of hours, that kind of a returns.
Too good to be true?
Just too good to be true. It's just not possible. And number two, as I mentioned again, just this, if you were like I say, if you overload information, if you just remember those two things. The second one is that if you are given a bank account to transfer your money to, and that bank account is an unknown bank account, you know, and it's a bank account of an individual or whatnot, that is a huge red flag. It's a huge red flag. Because in the real investing environment, that does not work, you know, that does not work. And then if you are an investor, you know, without going through due process, you know, like they just come to you and then they just say, oh, you know, you know, oh, please invest and I'll give you the money. How is that possible? It does not make sense. You see, you have to at least have an account and you know, and so on and so forth. So these are the things, you know, to wrap things up. So these are the crucial things one need to be remember. And once public remembers of this, you know, they can avoid themselves from falling victim to scams. You see, it's just that, you know, we are trying daily to keep up with the new modus operandi, and every day that we see them evolving. More recently, we have even seen very elaborate schemes like the IPO scam. They claim to say that this is an IPO opportunity. So what they will do is that they will see that there are actual IPOs that's going to be listed on the stock exchange on our bursa. Then you will go and see bursa say, hey, this particular company is due to be listed next week. So the scammers will tell you, hey, we have got this block of shares, which is private placement only, exclusive that we have. We managed to get it from the company or whatever. We are willing to do by way of a private placement to you, and they again the money will be. But in everything that we see, the characteristic, the typical or the standard, the common characteristic that we see is that you are required to transfer money into unknown bank accounts. So as much as as much as there are varied and elaborate scams out there, public remember this one or two things. I think they can keep themselves safe.
Skepticism, I think that's the key word.
Skepticism, because you come to the realization that it's a cruel world out there. Once you come to the realization that cruel world out there, then the skepticism is the only way that you can don't trust anyone and so on and so forth. There has been instances, which I think that it's a good thing actually, that people call us and say that even legitimate companies licensed with the SC, and they've been approached. They say, is this legitimate? Then we thought, yeah, this is all right. You know what I mean? But actually, I mean, it's sad that people have to resort to that, even legitimate companies. But it's good. It's good. At least you have checked, verified before you make the investment.
And it's good that there are all of these controls in place.
Exactly.
To protect the investor, because that's ultimately the goal, right?
So as I've said, I think as you mentioned, prevention is better than cure, and we trying daily to keep up with them. But it's always best that people just try to keep themselves safe by these few things. If I can just make, we've even had situations. There was once where we received a call from the daughter of a scam victim. Now, the scam victim is an elderly gentleman. The scam victim is an elderly gentleman who was convinced that this is a legitimate investment. And even after the daughter point out to the father that, Papa, this is a scam, the gentleman refused to believe, and she says, I know what you're doing. You're just trying to not allow me to make some money and this and that and everything. So the daughter called us and said, can you speak to my father? And we did that. We told the gentleman that, look, yes, sir, you think, I think this what you're listen to is a scam and whatnot. So that is the level of trust and the psychological trick that the people play nowadays, the scammers play, in order for you to be tricked into becoming a victim of scam. So that example will wrap up, show how vulnerable and how easy people can fall victim to scams.
And that was very quick thinking of the daughter. Very quick thinking, because most of the time this happens after the investment has been done.
Yes, okay. So what also happens is that, how the scammers work is that they give, they will tell you that, you put in an investment of 300, you'll get an investment of 3,000. They call and say, you know what, the market was so good, you made 10,000. But in order for you to withdraw the 10,000, you need to make another 3,000 ringgit payment as bank negara fees or tax and this and that and everything. They will continue to do that until such time that they have milked as much as they possibly can from the victim. And so there are ways that while we cannot recover the money for you, that there could be instances where we could somewhat mitigate the losses, so that they do not continue to pay, because the scammers will do that. They'll continue to try to get as much as possible. So if you have already lost a couple of thousand first, and if maybe they've just put in a couple of hundred first, so before it balloons up to be a 20, 30,000, which typically happens, we can nip it in the bud. At least, it's not still the person is a victim of scam. At least the amount could be contained, if I may.
Jawahar, thank you for taking the time to share insights on investment scams and the importance of vigilance when investing. We hope our viewers found this episode helpful in making more informed decisions when investing their hard-earned money. For more Coffee Talk, be sure to like and subscribe on FIMM's YouTube channel so that you don't miss out on our future content. See you in the next episode.